Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, broadcasting live from Lagos. Once again, health workers have begun a national strike over what they say is the failure of the federal government to implement demands agreed upon by the two parties. The strike, which started on Monday, May 18, 2015, was initiated by the National Union of Allied Health Professionals, NUAP, which is a unit under the Joint Health Sector Unions, JOHESU. Their demands to the federal government include implementation of adjusted salaries of its members and the right to be called consultants, among other things. Correspondent Mary Alale Yusuf reports.
At the Obafemi Awolowo Teaching Hospital Complex in Osun State, members of the National Union of Allied Health Professionals stage a protest. They say their demands have not changed since last year.
Between now and 29th of May, I'm appealing to Mr. President to ensure that he fulfills the promise which he made to the joint health sector unions. More so that the issue at stake are the issues of agreements already mutually signed between the two parties. The issues of court judgments already entered in our favor. The issue of salary adjustment that was agreed between the two parties in March last year. And the issue of discrimination against us in the health sector.
The Lagos University Teaching Hospital, Idi-Araba, has some activity, even though the atmosphere seems a bit subdued. Here at the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, activities in the X-ray unit and the psychology department appear to have ground to a halt. This lady, who is employed in the medical laboratory unit, describes what it has been like since the strike began.
The last time we had active work was on Monday, and the patients that came in that were properly registered, they are 29. And since then, it has been like 6, 8, but like today, none, because there's nothing going on. We are just here because the Congress asked us to come for meeting. That's why we are here.
But there is something else the striking health workers would like the federal government to take note of.
It has become a policy that we don't know why the government is pulling such policy through the Federal Ministry of Health. We don't know how true it is, but what we are saying is that our department should not be given to the private sector to run. If it's given to the private sector to run, definitely we know that capacity development will not improve. We also know that if that is given out, a lot of people will suffer, the masses will suffer.
This building behind me was commissioned late last year by the Honorable Minister of Health, Dr. Khaliru Al-Hassan. Now, one of the agitations of the striking health workers is that services here should not be privatized. They believe that privatization will give jobs to outsiders, depriving deserving professionals of jobs within the institution. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
Well, to talk more on this issue, I'm being joined now in the studio by the chairman, Nigerian Union of Allied Health Professionals, Lagos State Council, Comrade Christian Uboja. Thank you so much for joining me on the news at 10. Well, let's start off with one of the issues that was actually mentioned. You've several times, talked about the implementation and payment of arrears of CONHES 10, 10 skipping. Could you tell us a little bit more about your demands?
Well, you will recall that even the skipping we're talking about was a measure put by the federal government in the olden days when professionals were not actually getting employment or staying under federal government employment. As at then, the private organizations were paying more. So the government decided to make the workers to, skip one level in order to retain them in service. In core ministries, they skip CONHES 11 or grade level 11. In health, it is 10. And this has been going on until the NMA, which is MBBS holders or the doctors, said that the other health professionals would not skip. Whereas they, on their own part, have already skipped. That is why they start on equivalent of 11. Whereas we start on 8, go to 9, and then skip 10 to go to 11. You would have spent 9 years to get up to that 11, which they start from. And that means that even when you look at the curriculum of education, they spend 8 years in the university, including housemanship and youth service, whereas other health professionals spend 7 years, including internship and youth service. A difference of just 1 year. But then they go 3 steps ahead, 3 levels ahead of others, you see. And this was contested in the Court of Nigeria, the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, and other health professionals won that particular case in the court. They still insisted, because they are the one most times in the ministries talk about the minister is always a medical doctor, talk about permanent secretary, talk about directors in different cadres. They are always the one occupying.
But then, you know, for the strike coming at this time, a lot of people see it as being insensitive. It's an issue that has been on the front burner for a very long time.
Yes.
And yes, the federal government has been meeting with your members and trying to resolve it. So couldn't you have given the government a little more time to resolve this issue rather than go on strike?
Yes, I want to tell you, I want to remind you once more that this issue did not just start now. It has been on since 2009, 4 solid years. We have been on discussion. We've had several discussions, several agreements, several signing of memorandum of understanding. We are talking about implementation, secularizing these agreements and get them implemented. And without secularizing them, bringing them into secular, there's no way anybody can implement. So it's not something that just started. It has been on. If we have fought for this thing for 4 solid years, how long do you want us to continue fighting for the same thing?
But then you have to also remember that we're moving into transition. It's a
Yes.
transition period now.
Yes.
We're moving to a new government.
Yes.
So this strike at this particular point in time is almost taking you back to square one, because you're going to still have to revisit the issues and have to tell this incoming administration what the challenges were, because they really do not know anything about it. So you're practically almost shooting yourself in the foot.
No, this is exactly what we wanted to avoid from the beginning. We started in time, okay, but the blocks were there. We are not allowed to see the president, as at the time we insisted that we must continue. And that was during the time of the election proper. The president of the country, a very good luck, Jonathan, on the 1st of February, called the JSU members to please come, let us discuss. And after hearing them, he claimed he was not aware that what he had given, he thought it was for everybody in the health sector. That please, we should give him 2 weeks to finish with the election, that he will surely accede to our request, that we are justified. The areas we have won in court, nobody can touch them, and so on. We are human beings. We said, okay, let's give him the chance. Unfortunately, the election has come and gone, okay, and you know exactly who won and who lost. So at the end of the day, what we are saying is that these things we have started, we are reminding, okay, now for the few weeks remaining for you, why not do what you agreed to do with us? He is not ready to do that, and we are equally telling the incoming president that this is a situation on ground, and of course he should assent to it. And we do not want to let it be as if it has not been there before. Now he will now come and say, let us come, let us start renegotiating. How long will you continue to renegotiating? So we have to continue. It is something that he has to really come up to have a solution to. Especially a situation where the NMA, okay, have had these things implemented.
Dr. Christian Ugbaja,
Yes,
thank you so much for coming on the news at 10. Your issues are well noted. Chairman, Nigerian Union of Allied Health Professionals, Lagos State Council.
And the National Director of the unions.
Comrade Christian Ugbaja. Well, we'll take you back still to our main story, the story we're tracking here on the news at 10. The NDLEA, in the early hours of today, laid siege on the residence of Mr. Buruji Kasahamu, which they say is sequel to a formal request for extradition received from the Embassy of the United States of America. Our correspondent, Kelvin Obeton, has more in this report.
The news that the Lekki residence of Nigeria's Senator-elect Buruji Kasahamu was cordoned off by officials of the National Drug and Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, did not come to many as a surprise. As early as 5 a.m. on Saturday, stern-looking and armed personnel of the NDLEA had stormed his house to arrest and extradite him to face trial over drug-related charges in the United States. his house was cordoned off, while pedestrians and motorists were not allowed to make use of adjoining streets meters away. The NDLEA personnel were strategically positioned to ensure that nothing goes short of directives. For hours we waited, even to the later part of the day, no news of Buruji's arrest. Some assumed that he might have made a way through an escape route within his residence. But we still get assurances that the suspect is within and will soon be apprehended. But no officials of the NDLEA was ready to talk to Channels Television amidst all that was going on. But one of them, who pleaded anonymity, said it was a sensitive operation considering the personality of the suspect and the nature of crime he's been hunted for, and that any force could lead to the suspect committing suicide. Before his election into the upper house of Nigeria's legislative chamber, Senator-elect Buruji Kasahamu had come under strong scrutiny for drug-related charges in the U.S. At the moment, it seems his bid to stop his extradition through the law court is turning out to be a dashed hope. For now, he's under house arrest, and these men here are bent to ensure that directives are followed to the letter. Kelvin Obetin, Channels Television News.
Well, the NDLEA spokesman Michel Ofuego joins me now via telephone for more on this developing story. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10. Now, this is a matter, before the courts, and the NDLEA has been asked to maintain status quo till Wednesday, May 27th. The latest move by the agency, does it not contravene the court order?
It is not. Hello? Hello?
Well, Ms. Ofuego, if you can hear me, the question I asked is that this is a matter that is in the courts, and the court has asked the agency to stay status quo until after ruling on May the 27th. Now, this latest move by the agency, does it not contravene the court's order?
It does not contravene the...
So if it doesn't contravene, what is the implication of this move now by the NDLEA with regards to Mr. Buruji Kasahamu?
Yes, we are within the confines of the law. What is important is that there was a request of extradition by the United States government, and we are acting on it. And our actions are within the ambit of the law. Hello?
Ms. Ofuego, I can hear you very clearly. So if, it's within the ambit of the law, will this not also throw up a kind of another contradiction with regards to court and delay further proceedings on the matter?
Not at all. Like I stated in my press statement, that we are holding him in house arrest, and on Monday he's going to appear before the law court. The insinuation, that we are trying to whisk him from his house to the airport and take him to the United States is not correct. So what is important is that we have placed him on house arrest. He has access to his attorneys. He has access to members of his families. And we will allow him to receive guests.
Let's also talk about another issue that's come up, contradictory issue as well, about the agency having a warrant to place Mr. Kasahamu under house arrest. Does the agency actually have a warrant to do this?
Yeah, it is within the powers of the NDLEA to do that. We have not acted outside the law. Let me quickly place on record that the identity card of a narcotic officer is also serves as a warrant. So it is just ignorance on the part of those who are saying we have no warrant of arrest. An NDLEA officer do not need any warrant of arrest besides the identity card.
Well, another thing that's got a lot of people, wondering at this time is if Mr. Buruji does not come out of his home on Monday, because there's been reports that because of the pressure, he's having suicide tendencies. So what if Mr. Buruji does not come out of his home on Monday? What would be the agency's next line of action?
Look, as a distinguished senator-elect, we do not expect any action to the contrary. He must, we believe he should respect the constitution of our, and particularly an honorable member of the upper chamber. We don't expect anything less.
Mr. Muche Ofoego, thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10 and giving us the perspectives of the agency.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Still ahead on the News at 10, 11 people kidnapped in Ekiti State regained their freedom. In a moment, please join us again.